my name is Ye, and I will be doing a book review on Nick Bishop's book called Lizards. It looks like this, and I will show you guys what the book looks like in a minute. So this is the cover of the book, and when we look inside, these are pictures that were taken directly by the author. It includes a picture of lizard on each page and a description of the lizards and where they live and their characteristics. One of the pages even have a opening like this. And here is the picture of the author. And while we're at the picture, I'll say a little bit about the author. His name is Nick Bishop. He is the author and the photographer of this book and many nature books for children. He was born on 1955 in England, United Kingdom. He traveled from England to Bangladesh when he was 3, where his father worked as a biology teacher for British Council, but he was too young to remember many of the details. He started taking photographs at age 9 when he borrowed his sister's box Brownie camera. And he lived in Sudan at the time, and it was a very exciting place for him. He loved to explore the winding streets of the souk, I think that's how you pronounce it, bazaar. And when he was 14, he moved to Goroka in the highlands of New Guinea, where he was homeschooled for 4 years while attending the local high school, and he was the only white boy at the time. He used to go on a walkabout at weekends on local villages, persuading the elders to talk to him into talking about the mountains and hunting trips for birds in paradise. When he was 16 and 17, he did some long hiking trips crossing mountain ranges and rivers into unmapped regions, and he carried a camera and tape recorder to record custom music, folklores of the places that he visited. He completed his training in biology in England in 1977 and traveled months by train, bus, and an antique ferry from London to Bangladesh, and then flew to New Zealand, where he felt he arrived at in paradise. He settled in New Zealand for 17 years and became a citizen there. And then he started his PhD and spent most of his spare time hiking, exploring the alpine wilderness on the New Zealand Southern Alps. His first book was called Untouched Horizon, which was published in 1989, and it was about wilderness landscapes of the South Island. And this was followed by several other books for adults about natural history, which he both wrote and illustrated. He never considered doing children's books, but it became evident that young readers liked some of his photographs, especially those of small animals like frogs, insects, and spiders. And his biological training and upbringing by biologist parents helped him spark an interest in smaller animals that sometimes are overlooked. So he got a call from the children's publisher asking him to produce a nonfiction books for schools, and they explained how some children do not respond well to fiction books, and their interest in reading can languish as a result. Reading was never his interest until much later when he discovered books were about the real world of science, nature, and adventure, so switching to children's book was quite easy for him. And as a writer, he has to work with reduced palettes in terms of vocabulary, sentence construction, but as a photographer, very little change is needed. And each new title, and it's a whole new adventure for him, and he's lucky to explore many places while taking photographs. One of the reasons that I chose this book was because I never really knew much about lizards, but the picture captivated my eyes, and so I decided to give it a try. And if you see all the pictures, it was taken by him, and it's very detailed and very interesting to look at. This book was published in October 1st, 2010 by Scholastic Nonfiction, and it's a part of his nature book series by animals. It includes lizards, snakes, butterflies, moths, spiders, and frogs. And it won a lot of awards. In 2010, it won a BookLink Lasting Connections, Blue Ribbon Book, Booklist Editor's Choice, and in 2011, he also won a lot of other books. National Science Teacher Association Outstanding Science Trade Book for Students, and American Library Association Notable Book. So lizards come in various shapes and sizes. This book focuses on the diverse species and of lizards and presents information, fascinating facts about lizards' appearances, habits, and life cycles. You can learn about flying dragons, lizards hatching out of an egg, and a lot more, and you find in real life full color photography in this book. 7 interesting facts that I learned from this topic was from page 6, and it stated that some lizards do not have legs. They might look like snakes, but they can blink, and they have ear holes. Snakes do not have eyelids on ears, and you can see. It's on this page. Another one is that there are 5,000 types of lizards, and which is written in here. You can see that. And one thing that I found interesting was that some lizards do not lay eggs. Instead, the mother holds it inside their stomach and keep them warm and safe until they hatch. And lizards are often called cold-blooded because their body temperature depends on the environment. Another thing is that the amount of food a mammal needs in one day, a lizard can last for 2 weeks. A thorny devil from Australia drinks water by rubbing its belly on damp sand, tiny channels in its skin pull water from the ground to its mouth. So that was interesting. And some lizards almost never drink. Instead, they get most of the water from the plants they eat. And that was on page 20. Let me show you the page. The weirdest lizards in North America are horned lizards. Some squirt bad-tasting blood from their eyes to avoid coyotes, which was very interesting. And some lizards, such as sandfish, swim beneath the sand in the desert just like a fish swims in water. And they supersense, which allows them to detect vibrations from spiders and insects on the surface of the sand. And lizards strike from below to get their prey. When considering the structure of the book, it is expository, and the book mentions that it's a style of writing written to explain, inform, or describe, and this writing uses various organization patterns to represent information. And this book was obviously written to explain and inform and describe lizards and how they live to the readers and to the viewers who are reading this book. When considering the organizational patterns, such as whether it is description, sequence, compare and contrast, problem, solution, and cause and effect, this is description, which is a pattern provides information about object, event, or person. For example, facts, feature, traits, and often qualifying listing terms of criteria such as size or size of importance. And you can see that in this book, they describe features and characteristics about lizards. For instance, when you look at page 22, it states, their toed pads are often covered in hairs that are so tiny you need a powerful microscope to see them. Molecules on each hair cling like little magnets to molecules on leaf or branches the gecko is walking on. A single molecule does not cling well on its own, but there are billions of molecules of hair and millions of hairs on gecko's toes. Together, they grip so well that many geckos can climb grass and walk upside down across ceilings without ever slipping. So this is describing the characteristics of geckos and how they are able to walk on leaves and trees without falling. When looking at the style of the book, there aren't really speech bubbles, but there are highlights of phrases of key points in the sections, and it differentiates the part from others. So look at this text compared to this. The author highlights the main points. And the point of view is in third person, where it shows and describes the events and characteristics of the lizards. And the title, if you look at the title, it is very, very straightforward, simple, and it tells the readers exactly what the topic is, what they're going to read about. And the book does not have too descriptive language, so the younger audience will be able to understand it. But in case they don't, they have a glossary in the back as well. If the readers are confused about some of the wordings of the book, there's a glossary in the back, which is one of the organizational tools that this book uses. There isn't really a table of contents if you look in the beginning of the book. It moves straight on to the beginning. But there are index located at the back of the book, along with glossary, bibliographic source notes, and the note about the author and how he went about and taking some of the lizard pictures are listed in here. When talking about graphics and visual features such as photographs, paintings, drawing, charts, diagrams, visuals are a very central role in nonfiction. And as I mentioned before, this book, all the photographs are taken directly by the author, and it also includes a foldout, which could engage the younger readers to read. And all the pictures that the author has taken are very interesting and intriguing to look. They're very detailed. And so it clarifies and provides a visual of lizards that the author is talking about, and so the readers could see it and refer back to the text, and that provides a background knowledge of the subject before even reading it. So how did this book enhance my understanding of the topic of lizards? As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I didn't really know much about lizards. I didn't know there were so many of them that existed. I would have never known their characteristics, traits, and how they lived if I didn't read this book. And because this isn't written in a sophisticated writing, young readers are easily able to understand it, and a lot of other readers are easily able to understand this. Like some of the facts that I found in this book, as I mentioned in the 7 interesting facts, I would have never known if I didn't read this book. So for instance, in this page, it mentions that most lizards live in warm parts of the world because their body temperature depends on their surroundings. Each morning, a lizard finds a sunny spot, perhaps on a rock or a branch, to stretch out and soak on the heat. It needs to warm its body quickly, otherwise it'll be too cold and sluggish to hunt for food or run from predators. I would have never known some of the facts that are listed in here if I haven't read this book. I personally would recommend this book for age 3 to 6, grades 3 to 6 actually, to incorporate it in their science lesson on animals. I would discuss on how lizards are cold-blooded animals, where they live, what they eat, and the students could come up with sort of research project or an art project on this subject too. Since lizards are so bright and colorful, the students could make a lizard out of a colored tissue paper or watered-down glue, so it can be turned into an art activity as well, and the students could even do a sand art picture as well. And I would definitely use this book to teach about lizards, because I think it's an interesting thing to let students know how much information they can learn about lizards by only using pictures. So all the pictures that the author has taken are so detailed that sometimes you get an background understanding even before you read the text. I would definitely recommend this book to anyone who is interested in lizards or who just wants to learn more about them. So I don't know anything about lizards in the first place, but definitely seeing all the pictures that he has taken and reading all the information, they were very interesting, and I was definitely more interested in learning about lizards. So I would recommend this to anyone who wants to learn more about animals.